Why do ethical problems occur in business, even when organizations have policies and values in place? This presentation takes a closer look at the roots of ethical failure, including the business environments and concepts that shape decisions. Understanding why these problems arise is the first step toward preventing them. By examining the pressures, assumptions, and conditions that influence behavior, we can better understand how organizations build cultures where integrity is not just stated, but consistently practiced. Business ethics is the application of moral principles to commercial activity. In practical terms, it guides how organizations, managers, and employees make decisions that affect customers, employees, investors, communities, and other stakeholders. Ethics is doing what is right, not merely what is permitted. That distinction matters because legal compliance is only a minimum standard. A company can follow the law and still make choices that are unfair, misleading, or harmful. Business ethics helps us evaluate not only whether an action is allowed, but whether it is responsible and morally sound. Ethical failure usually has recognizable causes rather than appearing out of nowhere. The core drivers are pressure, culture, self-interest, and oversight. When targets are unrealistic, people may feel pushed to cut corners or misrepresent results. When organizational values are unclear, that absence creates room for harmful behavior. Personal financial or reputational gain can also outweigh responsibility to the broader group. Finally, without effective accountability, misconduct may continue unchecked. Together, these factors show why ethical behavior depends not only on individual choices, but also on the systems and expectations surrounding them. Pressure becomes an ethical risk when performance expectations are aggressive but safeguards are missing. Employees may feel they face an implicit or even explicit choice: meet the target or face consequences. Over time, that pressure can make rule bending seem normal rather than exceptional. Performance at any cost is not a performance strategy. It is a risk signal. Wells Fargo illustrates this through unauthorized accounts open to satisfy sales quotas, while Enron shows how pressure to report growth contributed to widespread accounting fraud. In both cases, the incentive system overwhelmed ethical judgment. One of the most powerful drivers of ethical misconduct is the combination of self-interest and rationalization. Rationalization is a mental process of making unacceptable behavior feel acceptable. People may say, "Everyone does it," shifting responsibility to their peers. They may believe the ends justify the means, treating a desirable outcome as permission to use harmful methods. Or they may insist no one will get hurt, minimizing the impact on stakeholders. These explanations reduce personal accountability and make questionable decisions easier to pursue. Recognizing these patterns is an important first step toward resisting them. Organizational culture often operates as the invisible hand behind everyday behavior. It shapes what employees believe is acceptable, especially when policies and values are tested. When leaders model unethical conduct, they send a clear message that integrity is optional. And when whistleblowers are punished, speaking up becomes dangerous, so silence becomes a form of survival. The most important takeaway is that tone at the top strongly influences the ethical climate across the organization. Leaders do not simply describe culture. Through their actions, they create it. Cognitive biases can shape ethical decisions even when our intentions are good. The danger is that these distortions often operate without our awareness. Motivated blindness leads us to overlook facts that conflict with our goals. Groupthink discourages dissent, so flawed decisions may go unchallenged. The slippery slope begins with small compromises that gradually make more serious violations seem acceptable. And overconfidence can convince us we're more ethical than others, making it harder to recognize our own blind spots. Together, these biases explain why ethical judgment requires deliberate reflection, not just good intentions. Ethical failures are not always a result of one person making a bad choice. Often, they are built into organizational systems that reward short-term profit, blur ownership, or make concerns difficult to report. 3 structural risks stand out: diffuse responsibility, where people assume someone else will speak up, a lack of transparency, where complex processes obscure accountability, and misaligned incentives, where bonuses reward revenue without considering conduct. Together, these conditions can normalize misconduct because no individual or team clearly owns the responsibility for identifying and addressing it. Ethical failures rarely remain isolated. They can cascade into reputational damage, legal liability, financial loss, and direct human harm. The financial impact is substantial. Organizations worldwide lose an average of $3.6 billion annually to fraud, according to the 2022 ACFE report. The damage also extends to trust. 49% of consumers have stopped buying from a brand after an ethical scandal. And, on average, organizations lose about 5% of revenue each year to occupational fraud. These figures show why ethics is both a human responsibility and a business imperative. Preventing ethical problems requires action at every level, not just a policy on paper. The strongest prevention strategy combines 4 practices. First, leaders set the tone by modeling ethical behavior and communicating clear values. Second, organizations align incentives with integrity, rewarding how results are achieved, not only the numbers. Third, safe reporting channels let employees raise concerns without fear of retaliation, including anonymously when needed. Finally, regular training helps people recognize bias, pressure, and rationalization while they're happening, so they can make better decisions in real time. The key takeaways are clear. Ethics goes beyond legal compliance, which is only the minimum standard. Ethical failures usually arise from systemic pressure, culture, bias, and structure. Because culture shapes behavior at every level, strong leadership incentives and safeguards can significantly reduce ethical risk.